Hello and welcome back to the Skyrim Archaeological Survey. Goodness gracious me, Liv. I'm pretty sure that some people thought we had been eaten alive by the undead. It's been a while, has it not?
It has. But a true archaeologist never quits.
No, indeed, indeed, and it's worthwhile saying that yeah, we always saw this as a medium to long term project, but also at the
Yeah.
same time we have been a little bit we got distracted from our schedule. So this year will be the year, hopefully, of schedule and no bad luck when it comes to streaming and all
Mm,
internet connections being solid and all that kind of thing.
yes. I
And I,
will never mention the curse again.
no, no, and of course, but we're off to a great start. We've already had no hiccups at all.
Yeah, we just logged in, got on Skype, and everything worked
It
fine.
was fine. It was simply fine. Uh, in all seriousness though, it is good to be back, and in a new year, we have a new survey to conduct, and today we are at the Ansilvund. Um, is this apparently it seems to be an archaeological dig, according to um, the Elder Scrolls fan wiki.
Yeah.
Uh, Ansilvund is an ancient Nordic tomb. It is an excavation site into the tomb of Fiori and Holgeir, and is located north east of Shoal Stone, east of Crags Lane Cavern, in the Rift. Outside the entrance is a ruined stone tower. The entrance is a cave in the mountainside, and Ansilvund is a large tomb filled with multiple traps. And I suppose this is immediately an opportunity, I suppose, to to reflect upon why it is that other archaeologists in Skyrim are doing their archaeology, because I don't think they're
Mhm.
necessarily, well, shall we say, as academically um, uh,
Inclined.
inclined, yeah. As benign, as they seem to have a motive whenever we find people doing archaeology, it seems, in Skyrim.
Yes.
Yeah. Uh,
I would like to add also that they have quite a hostile approach to other archaeologists.
yeah, 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 yeah. Would you say that that their approach is worse than peer review, for example?
I would say I have never, in my experience of peer review, been shot or executed,
No, no,
especially not on site.
no. No, indeed, indeed. Normally, I mean, I've definitely come across a few archaeologists stabbing each other metaphorically in the back.
Yes, but never actually, like, I have never seen blood drawn within university walls.
No, no, indeed. And so yes, it sounds like you had fun clearing out this particular crypt.
Yes, yes, it was.
Yeah.
I had a lot of use for my high sneak and my bow.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Brilliant. So if we are we on a road in this particular part of the world?
Yes. We no, I don't want fast travel. No. Uh, let's see. We are on the road between. It's one of the minor roads
Uh-huh.
between Riften and Windhelm.
Okay, so this is it's not a fully paved road then in that sense. It's
No,
more of a trackway. Okay.
it leads up from the main road,
Hmm.
but it's not that visible if
No.
we compare to others.
Okay. And so
It
what is?
is a fallen tower. Uh,
Yes, I see. Yes, there's the what is the ruin in that sense? Is there anything in there? Is it, or is it just is it more like a folly than an actual ruined fortress type space?
it's a good ruin.
Hmm.
You can enter it, and as you can see, you walk through these arches to come up there.
Hmm. So, despite this being off the current beaten path, they're definitely reinforcing the approach using monumental architecture.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and as you
And
can see, we come straight to one of the holdouts for the archaeologists.
Now, well, how does this compare uh, to previous archaeological digs that we've seen? So, I mean, I remember, when we visited. I can't quite remember where it was now. But there's quite a big dig in the mountains to the north. I'll just
Uh,
check it now. That we
the one in
visited.
Markov.
Markarth. Is it Markarth? I think it might be Markarth. Which it seemed to have a formal kind of staging area in terms of there was like a fines table. There was evidence of people sleeping, possibly out in the snow where they shouldn't have been. Um, in this instance, this looks a little bit more like the priority is cooking as opposed to
Well,
archaeological artifact analysis.
we find a lot more of the actual archaeology inside of the excavation.
Hmm. Hmm.
This seems to be like,
Sarthol, that was it.
yeah.
Yes.
This seems to be like the quartermaster, so to speak.
Ah,
Like you have your supplies that you would need for everyday living
yeah.
rather than the excavation.
Okay, so maybe this is this the place where someone might come to perhaps be paid or to receive first aid, all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Have a nice hot meal out in the free air instead of inside of the musky cavern full of undead.
I see. And so in that sense, yes, it is definitely a cavern filled with undead. And actually, as the wiki stated, this is another instance where we see a Nord tomb, or ancient Nord tomb, converting a natural feature such as a cave
Yes.
into a formal space. But it's interesting that that despite having the tower and despite having the monolithic pathway leading up to the entrance, the cave entrance is a little underwhelming. It looks like a mine, doesn't it? Does it not?
Yeah, it
Hmm.
is.
Hmm.
You don't expect to find all the things you find in there from the entrance.
No. And is I, I can't help but wonder what is that on? Is that deliberate? If such I mean, in so much as, why if you want it to look unassuming, why build the tower in the first place? Unless the tower is meant to be some sort of distraction from, an extra layer of. Oh no, there's nothing special down there. uh,
Well, the tomb does have a bit of a special history.
mm-hmm.
Uh, in like if we compare to other tombs, it actually have some folk tale connected to it,
Uh huh. Uh huh.
which is this of Fiorir and Holger,
Uh huh.
uh,
Uh huh.
uh, and it's their love story essentially.
I see. Do you want to have a
Uh,
quick look, or do you want to? Or is
yeah,
that
sure.
okay? Yeah.
Uh, let's do some reading.
I like the apples as well.
Yeah.
Of Fiore and Holger. In her 29th summer of life, Fiore, the huntress, met the warlord Holger on the field of battle. None remember what they fought over, for their love to come was so great it overshadowed all rivalries and disputes. They fought to a standstill as their followers looked on, till her sword broke his axe and his shield dulled her blade, and all could see that they were equals. As the eagle finds its mates, so too did Fury find hers in Holger, and a time of peace came to the clans of the forest. But as the summer's warmth gave way to the winter's chill, so too would this peace pass. But the snake came and bit Holger, its venom seeping deep into the wound. Oh dear. A wail greeted Fiore's view as she came over the snow-covered mountains to the coast. Snow-covered mountains to the coast. This isn't okay. This seems to be a bit disjointed, doesn't it?
Yeah.
She obtained an elixir from Akavir and returned to the forest in haste. I see, to cure Holger. Though Holger could smell the winds of Sovngarde, she gave him the elixir, and he was cured in an instant. But the snake bit Fury as she poured the last drop into Holgeir's mouth. Oh! And fatigued from her journey, she joined the ancestors immediately. Holgeir's grief was such that he built a tomb and upon completion took his own life that he might rejoin her. Oh, oh dear. Well, that's a bit of a tragedy, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah,
And it's very unusual to find this kind of context to
yeah.
like the original people in the tomb.
Mm. Well, and also, I guess it's going to be interesting to see how the tomb reflects the story, in so much as presumably it was completed to reflect the story up until her death, and maybe it was also designed to reflect his intention to kill himself as well. It's hmm. So are we supposed to believe then that maybe the fact that this is a cave with a relatively um, what's the word, humble entrance reflects that this is one person's work, or do you think maybe he had the clan helping him? Uh
I would assume he has his clan helping him
huh.
since I've been inside and seen how much work is done.
Uh huh. Uh huh.
But I think it can reflect the fact that no one was expected to uh, exit
Oh,
the
okay.
tomb
Okay. Uh huh. Okay. Yeah.
because all the grandeur of the tomb is on the inside.
Mm-hmm. And I suppose in that sense as well, no one there doesn't seem to be any. For example, there's no so far. There's no space aside from the tower, perhaps, for members of the public to come and sort of leave their respects or pay their
Exactly.
respects. So I suppose I mean, should we go in? Should we take a look at the opening? I suppose that in many of these tombs, often the opening appears to be a public or semi-public space where uh, previously we've hypothesized that practitioners of religion welcome and greet the public. This space does not seem to be uh, along those lines. It is again. It's
No.
it's much more. Well, actually, it feels as though it is in that sense possibly a reclaimed mine or a repurposed space. And I suppose that would make
Yes.
sense if you are in the throes of grief, attempting to 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 to, to create a space. You would start with maybe, oh, let's use the abandoned mine, this kind of thing.
I would also maybe that it suggests that maybe the tomb wasn't accessible
Mm,
before you started excavating.
mm,
Um, because it's like we can see it's a lot of scaffolding, it's a lot of things make like a work to get to the tomb itself.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. How much of this do you think, therefore, has been put in place by the archaeologists who we know are investigating this tomb?
I would say a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I would think, looking at it and knowing the story, that like all the wood probably is recent.
Okay, yeah, yeah. And actually, I suppose we're seeing much more familiar architecture on the walls now. Yeah, the
Yes.
lights and the curvilinear designs on the stone.
Indeed.
Yes, I see. Okay.
Um,
So in that case, then, do you think that is there any evidence then that there was a engineered collapse? Because it looks like you've had to climb up here to get to the point at which you can actually
yeah.
get in.
Um, I would argue that maybe you can, because as we can see, it's not as accessible as other tombs are.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing we have in this room that suggests that this was once a part of another tomb is maybe this pillar in the middle
Mm.
and these sconces.
Mm. Yeah,
Everything seems to be rather natural mine.
it does, and also,
Um,
well, in that sense, again, crucially, it absolutely none of it seems to play into the pattern that we've seen so far in terms of uh, often there are benches or there's a
mhm.
table or something like that in the first area. This is a whole different kettle of fish, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And
Mm.
as we continue down the hallway, we can see that we still have like just carved mine, it looks like
Mm-hmm.
natural cavern, nothing special.
Mm-hmm.
More wooden structures to secure everything for the people in here excavating.
Yeah.
And as we can see, we come across a lot of boxes and stuff, presumably to like shift and move finds.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Is there any evidence then that that prior to this excavation that people were coming to the site?
No, not that I've found.
No. Okay. And it's because it seems like, frankly, this excavation is much more of a focused, in that sense, a focused mining operation, given that very few artifacts have been brought to the entrance to be analysed or anything like that. It just looks like they're trying to get somewhere as opposed to, um,
Yeah,
yeah,
and maybe, like, I figured that maybe up to this point, they're digging to find the tomb.
yeah, yeah. Well, they've
Uh,
certainly come across a great big head on the ground there.
yeah,
Is that a collapsed statue, possibly, or part of a wall?
it looks like it.
Right, blimey.
As you can see, we have some pieces of wall here
Yeah,
that looks intentionally carved.
yeah, definitely. So maybe this was a seal, possibly, or
Yeah,
another. Uh, this wasn't a thoroughfare, and they've created a reinforced way to get through. Yeah.
yeah,
So now, see, this kind of brings to mind the days of people like Howard Carter, etc.,
yeah.
going into pyramids and and blasting your way through if needs be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, how just out of interest, in terms of real world archaeology, how do you personally feel about that chapter in archaeological discovery? Do you think it was? Do you think it is the sort of the golden age that certainly popular culture likes to paint it as, or?
I mean, nah, I'm not a like from a context kind of view.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I am split. I mean, a lot of new information was gained,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I mean, I don't think we can deny the impact it had for future archaeology
Uh-huh.
and for the like for the subject as a whole.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I wouldn't suggest using those methods.
No, no. It's interesting because actually just today I saw an article uh, in the Times, on the Times website, where the author described archaeologists as being treasure hungry
Mm-hmm.
archaeologists. It was saying that the HS2 line here in the UK is a manna from heaven for hungry archaeologists, and it just made me just think, I wonder if is that actually how people still think archaeologists are, just
Yeah.
treasure hungry, treasure hunters.
I mean, I would say that it's a common view,
Yeah.
sadly.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, it definitely seems as though these guys are treasure, or certainly, sorry, they're motivated.
Yes.
They're making
They
their
know
way
what they're
through.
going for and they are going hard.
Yeah, but also actually in a very organised way. This is no
Yes.
small feat to put in all this safety infrastructure. Um, is
And
that
as we
is
can see, like you come across a lot of these kind of platforms as you walk through,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
where you can see that like here they have excavated some Draugr
Oh yes, yeah.
and put them on a table.
Okay,
Uh,
so we actually do have an artifacts table here. That's good. That's good. That's something.
oh shit.
What's wrong?
Oh, it auto generates skeletons. So I just had to defend her.
It's
That's
okay. Your
splendid.
archery increased to 86. That's fine. Um, uh,
I'm just
that,
gonna have my bow out now.
that's obviously something that real world archaeology doesn't have to worry about, is tombs auto generating skeletons.
But yes, like you find a lot of these kind of tables. You find a lot of potions around, since
hmm
every non-undead enemy that you find in this cavern is a mage.
Okay. Right.
So it seems to be a, a mage-only excavation.
And so is this in that sense similar to Sarthol, which was because that was the Mage College, wasn't it, undertaking an excavation?
It
Um.
is, with the great exception that this is not a college-funded excavation.
Okay.
This is one private mage with a very clear goal
Okay.
who has decided to excavate this particular cavern.
Right. So was that a booby trap I saw?
Yes.
And now with previous tombs, the booby traps are often there to we decided to keep things in. So
Hmm.
where's the activation for it? How does it work? Or
And
is it just is it the fact that you open the door and something swings at you? Is that it?
no, I think it's out here somewhere. I can't remember where. Um, but it hits you in the head when you enter.
Oh,
And
okay.
if you, like, yeah, it's unpleasant.
Okay. So
Uh,
this one definitely, in that sense, is this is discouraging people from coming to the tomb. Then,
yes.
yeah. Mm.
And as you can see, when you enter this space, this is where you enter the tomb proper.
Yeah.
Suddenly we have worked art, we have the sconces,
Mhm. Mhm.
but it's still in a like decayed state, I would say.
Well, I seem to recall in a couple of places now we've seen situations where, and I compared them to rood screens. This the like a wall of, in this instance, a rock wall that separates informal and more formal space. Because here,
Yeah.
actually, we not only do we have the screen. And indeed, with space above it, I think in previous examples, it's not a full wall. There is actually you can throw things maybe or whatever over the top. Um, but here we do have though one of those tables. We have some the sort of
Hmm.
thing that you would expect in the entrance room of other ancient North tombs.
Yes. And as we can see, we have more like wood structures to make the tomb accessible
Mm.
nowadays.
So is
Uh,
there any indication of that what that wooden ramp is going up? Is it going up a collapse? Is it going up over a wall?
yes, it seems to be going over a collapse, and we can see that in a few places here that they have dug or built around collapses of the tomb,
Oh, I see. Yeah, yeah.
which is what you have to do sometimes.
Uh huh. Uh huh.
Imagine you have this big of a tomb to excavate. As you can see, we walk through a very broken part here
Mm.
and come down to another like pit stop for the archaeologists, I guess.
Well, and particularly archaeologists who are mages, in the
Yeah.
context of having um, a table for preparing magical spells and things.
Hmm.
Mm.
And more supplies.
Hmm.
We can also find like a lot of potion supplies and that here
So
in the tomb.
this probably took a long time to get
Month.
through here. Yeah. So this is a big project, and if it's not sponsored by the College of Mages, uh, one has to think that there must be a really good reason for doing this, because now we're absolutely into a tomb proper. We have the catacombs, wall niches for Draugr, and well, this is feeling much more familiar, isn't it?
It is. But as we can see, it's still a lot of collapse.
Hmm.
It's clear that this isn't a tomb that has been taken care of in the same way that we, I would say, now are used to seeing.
Yeah, well, and also actually, I suppose we're accustomed to seeing, as hinted by other Skyrim academics, accustomed to seeing evidence that the Draugr themselves take on chores within the tombs,
Maintenance.
maintenance. Yeah,
Yeah, and as we can see here we have a total collapse. You
yeah.
can't get through here. And we have the same over here, um, which have meant that the archaeologist actually has dug a new way.
Oh, okay. Right, through the wall. Right, okay.
And that's very much what I would say makes this space different from a lot of other tombs in Skyrim. We also have, let's see, I'm going to risk my life just to show this trap. If we take a look at the ceiling,
Oh, yes.
we see some suspicious looking
Uh-huh.
sticks. And if we go here...
Oh, does it fling you up in the air?
Yeah.
Oh, blimey.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
So I would say that they did not want visitors
No, they didn't.
when they
No.
built this tomb.
Yeah. And so actually, yeah, so in the context of the story then, Holger is presumably, as it were, not wanting to be disturbed.
Yes.
Yeah.
And here we can see like a broken floor that they have filled or stabilized. And you can see like where you came from. And you can see like we were here before.
Oh yes. Yeah, yeah. Yes, I see. Yeah, with the table with the Draugr on. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, is there any? Because obviously we're seeing the trappings of these spaces, these more and more frequently, aren't they? Things like the oh, I see an undead. Things like the pillars with rings on them, the wooden screens that line walkways, and so on and so forth. Do you think that this place is built in the context of that ancient architecture, but isn't quite the same as other places like it, in so much as it may well be using similar crafts techniques to make the place, but it doesn't seem to have the same focus of I suppose intense religious visitation that other
I would
spaces
say so.
have.
I would say that this is a case of a much more private tomb. This is an affair between two people, or at most two clans.
Yeah.
It's a private grieving space rather than a public one, like we've seen before.
But also, I suppose in that sense, it must have been a joint communal effort to build it as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because then we come up to these very elaborate.
Yeah.
And like you can see here, we had another trap of boulders rolling down on you.
Okay. Yes. Yep. Simple but effective. And what do these stone elements link together then? These sort of arch bridges.
You come up here, and then you have a puzzle here. I'm going to close the door for you so we can see, because that door over there on the other side of the bridge is locked when you come here.
Oh, I see. Yes.
So you have to solve the puzzle to come through.
Which is presumably going to be linked with the story that we read. Because there was an eagle was mentioned, a snake obviously bite was mentioned, a whale was mentioned, and I guess the snake was mentioned again.
Yes.
Yeah, and oh yes, because was it he just as the eagle finds its mate. That was the first mention, and then the snake bite, and then traveling, seeing the whale, and then the snake's revenge. And there we okay, interesting. So the puzzle reflects the story.
You have to know the story to come through.
Yeah, and well, I suppose hence the mage and their team bringing the book along just in case.
Yeah.
That's interesting. But how does that then work? Do you think in the context of is that booby trap.
Yeah. It blasts you with fire if you step on it, so I'm not gonna do that.
So that's so just to confirm that if you just have a close look at that booby trap, sorry, is it in the wall? The sort of the monster's mouth has holes in it that will let out fire if you step on the stone. Yeah, I
Yeah.
see. I see. Interesting. Because uh, so this sort of goes part way to answering or addressing my question in so much as if this is a private space and if Holger is so taken up with his grief, why have a locking mechanism that someone can figure out using the story? And I suppose it's there possibly for poignance because it's immediately obvious that he actually doesn't want people unlocking the door and coming straight across
Yeah.
because they'll get toasted. Yeah, so this is a place that's echoing the tragedy. It's not really a place for yeah for common visitation. No. Although I do remember that I remember this tomb. I remember the first time I played it, very much enjoying it.
It is. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I mean, it also reflects like how communal an affair, uh, like burying her and taking his life must have been, since he
Uh-huh.
has this large of a grave chamber for it. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not just the two of them.
So is this? Do you think this is this is kind of the Taj Mahal of Skyrim then?
I think so. Um, and as you can see, we have more traps here.
We do. Yeah. Lots of little monster heads. Now they is that poison darts, is it? Or is it more fire?
No axes in the ceiling.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, so you have to step
Oh, I
gingerly.
see. Yes, yes, I see now. Yes. Okay. And those little monster heads on the side, they don't fire anything at you?
Not that I've noticed, but they might.
Okay.
Um, and then you have to walk in here and unlock this gate, uh, and pull this chain,
Mm-hmm.
and then that chain opens up a secret passageway, which is this one.
And what made it secret then? How was it locked?
It just looked like an ordinary part of the stone
Oh, I
before
see.
it was locked.
Oh, more baddies.
Well, they
Well, not
seem to
baddies. They're
take
just
care of
undead.
themselves.
Oh wow. They're wandering on a booby trap.
Well, at least they're good for something.
Mm-hmm. Now that's something that archaeologists, well, for example, Indiana Jones didn't necessarily benefit from. So, well, so, you know, he did, didn't he? I suppose in Raiders, he benefits from the guy running in and getting skewered. Yeah. Okay. Now this obviously there's the raised areas up above.
Hmm.
There's this almost like a hall. I seem to recall this is akin to a big hallway. Um, it's the undead, I tell you. We don't know where Bourne live. We don't know how lucky we are doing archaeology
No,
in our reality.
but yes, this is a series of locked gates
Hmm.
that you have to walk through to get to the main burial chamber. And if you don't have the key, you have to be like really good at lock picking to get through.
Okay. But and also each of these, the sort of the caged platforms, if each of them are locked, presumably each of them, because it's not, they're not trying to obscure. They are literally trying to block the way, the progress. Then, in a sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pardon me. I suppose you've already had to had to come through a secret passageway to get to this space.
Yeah.
Uh,
And as you can see, we also have like these kind of doors that just lead into what looks like a cupboard.
yeah. Very grand doors that lead into. Yeah. very small spaces. So do you think the whole that all of this then is designed to obfuscate and confuse
Yeah, I
and
think so, and
frustrate?
to make people stay away.
Yeah. So I suppose you're fighting the undead and you don't know what's a doorway and what's a cupboard way,
Hmm.
and there's lots of locked areas where you can still get nonetheless attacked by other creatures. I suppose, yeah, it's well, it feels like a very very well thought out and convoluted way of keeping a space private. I guess. I suppose what we've seen there is we've seen that's where the two communities come in. That's where, because again, you're unlikely to think that Holger is going to have an awful lot of time to design all of this because he's in grief and all that kind of thing. So presumably you've got communities coming together, consulting, saying, well, how about if we have this really convoluted hallway and um, the
And this bridge, and that bridge leads up here,
yeah.
and we make a third, like, pathway across this room, with more traps.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Yes, yes. More trap buttons. So yeah, it's. Oh, I see. So spears will come out of the ground there then, or is it fire?
Fire.
Fire out of the ground.
And then this one single door that leads down this rather impressive and intimidating hallway.
So I suppose, in a nutshell, these people very much admired the way that the two heroes had come together, and
Yeah.
clearly also wanted to reflect their pride. I suppose after a time of war as well, actually.
Yeah, I mean, they brought peace to their communities.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So obviously we've seen some evidence of relatively few, but nonetheless some evidence of catacombs, and there were definitely some skeletons wandering around. How many Draugr did you have to
None.
none? Interesting. You didn't have to.
Presumably, the mages has taken care of whatever Draugr was here.
Well, on the wiki, there is apparently the mage and her lackeys have been
Mm-hmm.
raising Draugr to excavate the site. So actually, any Draugr that were around were either in a state of torpor, possibly because they've been collapsed and they weren't able to fulfil their duties of looking after the site, or and this is possibly less likely, she's been bringing Draugr here to raise, to dig on the
There
site.
are a fair amount of necromancers among
Right,
her lackeys.
right, yeah. So they've been going around recruiting the dead to do their digging.
Recruiting or enslaving, I guess that's like your own point of view decides what that is.
So was that a little bit of my inherited Britishness?
I won't comment.
Indeed, yes, yes. Oh yes, yes, we recruited them. Oh dear.
As you can see, when you come through this winding catacomb path,
Mm-hmm.
you walk out here into this rather grand
Right.
hall.
I see. And is this the final chamber? Is it?
Yeah, or well, sort of. It's the final grave chamber,
Okay.
and there we have the master necromancer.
Right. And was this? Do we have any? Was she carrying anything on her that explained her motivations, or?
Yes, we will read a letter in the next room
Oh,
that
okay.
will explain it all.
Okay.
And as you can see here, here we have a Draugr.
Uh-huh.
And when you do the main quest, or the big quest that leads you here the first time, this is Fjording or Haugir.
Right. Okay.
Then you find both of them here.
So
you can actually have their ghosts follow you along when you do the quests.
Right.
Which is a great kind of like. I wish I could have ghosts of the grave chambers we excavated follow us along and show us its history.
Yeah, that would be helpful if they were, if they were benign.
Yeah.
So I take it then that the two upright sarcophagi behind us are the two tombs of the two heroes.
I would assume so. Yes.
Right, I see. And are we to presume that maybe Holger gave his life on the table then, possibly? Maybe took some poison or something?
It seems very dramatic, and he seems to have been quite a dramatic person.
Yeah, well, and also this room would have been presumably filled with people to watch this, I guess.
Yes.
And then to deposit him in his grave. Upright, which is never easy.
No. And then you can find at least her blade in here. When you're in here the first time.
Yeah. And is that the ghost blade?
Yes.
Yes.
Or it's one ghost blade, and then I think it's one that's actually named after her.
Right. Okay.
Fury's, no, something.
Okay. Well, so that the hall back there, was it? Could you go up at all on the sides, on the I forgot what they're called now in monastic architecture, but sort of, are they, right, I see, yes, so people could be stood up here looking down, and okay, interesting.
As we can see, we have the same on the other side.
Yeah. So again, definitely echoing and making use of ancient Nord stone and wooden features, but in a way which is not unique, but definitely different, very different in terms of the particular mixture of features in this tomb.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And also, I guess in this instance, obviously we know as players that the oil lamps above can be smashed and create fire, but they are lamps. They're not traps. Yeah. Yeah. So it's not like there's going to be some sort of suicide pact to burn everyone alive in the room. They are simply lamps.
I don't think so.
No. Okay. Interesting. And actually, in terms of the ceiling, then, is that a fairly rough space still, despite the walls? Yeah. Okay, so it's a cavern that has been. Oh, well, it has been shaped quite nicely.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. So I can tell you're itching to move on. So let's go.
Because then we have this room. Right outside, and this is where the head archaeologist has been living.
Right. Okay. Well, she's been conducting experiments on the undead.
And she is wanting to do a very specific experiment, which we can see if we read this letter.
Imperial condolences. Imperial citizen Luar al-Skaven. It is with the deepest regret that I must inform you of the death of your husband, Sail. He laid down his life in battle, helping retake the Imperial city from the Aldemiri. Of course, yeah. He showed great courage in his final hour, and his sacrifice will not be in vain. All considered him a man of high moral standing and a shining example of the best the Empire has to offer. It is in this hour of your grief, please take solace in the fact that he gave up his life protecting the Empire which he held so dear. I see. So what? Well, I mean, it's
let's just say she did not.
Okay. No. Well, no, no, no. Um, but what's she doing? I like the flower, incidentally, in the cup on the
Mhm.
desk. That's quite a nice little feature. Um,
She's trying to raise her husband from the dead.
and is she therefore practicing? Why come down to this tomb and practice on these people then?
Because as I have, if I've understood the lore correctly,
Uh huh.
uh, this tomb has um, myth about it to be extra good for raising loved ones,
Oh, I see.
with
Because of the
connection to
grief.
the love story between the two that was buried here.
I see. Okay. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
Uh, so that's why.
Uh
Uh,
huh.
and in this room, you can actually find like a lot of things that you would need to do necromancy spells,
Uh huh.
and also like vampire books and Book of the Dead. Um, so she seems to have been going down a rather dark path
She
before she went.
does. Yeah. Now, according to the wiki, which I accidentally opened and started an advert there, so if anyone here heard an advert for the Grudge, that was me. Um, um, was there a journal? Did she have a journal at all in this too?
Yes. Yes. She had. I can't remember where I put it though. I tried to leave everything behind,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm going to check if I have it in my inventory. I rarely deposit books. No.
Ah, that's a shame. Okay.
But I think I found it in here, maybe? Nope, not there. Ah, now we're at the right place.
Ah, yes. So here we are, and her journal, I think, may well help add a bit of flesh to the bones of her.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so there's another copy of the story as well in here,
Yep.
just in case you didn't look at the one outside.
Or if you forgot, you should
Yeah,
always bring an extra copy of your
yeah, yeah.
reference material.
25 years I have grieved for my husband. 25 years, and sought revenge against the Empire for his death. I have researched the magics to return his spirit to a body, and something about the story of Fiori and Holger has drawn me here. Holger would make the perfect vessel to bring my Sail back to life. Oh, I see. So she wants to put his spirit
Mm-hmm.
into that body. I have managed to raise the dead here and use them as labourers to clear the way to the main burial hall. Something about the methods used by the ancient Nords has kept them incredibly well preserved. That these stormcloaks had half their sense, we could have used them to push the elves right off the continent and formed a new state to combat the Empire. And now, when I'm so close, a war breaks out. The sleeping bear of Skyrim, who would not come to aid us in Hammerfell, awakens now that the Empire has abandoned them as well. They think they know suffering at the hands of the Empire. They know nothing. Ha! I would see both the Empire and these sons of Skyrim into oblivion myself. Blimey! So she's
She's a rather bitter woman.
yeah, she's been consumed by by her tragedy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that also adds to the tragedy of the tomb, I think, as
It
well.
does.
Yeah. And do you think then, I suppose, as a meta archaeological context, almost as an appropriation of the tomb, given that we are now looking at it post her excavation and murder at your hands, um, that
Murder. It's such a harsh term.
self-defense.
She attacked me first.
um, but do you think then that this sort of uh, uh, this echo, I guess, this reinforcement of those themes is is an is a legitimate element of this site, or do you think this is
I think
something
so.
where?
I mean, I think at least it speaks of some some things that transpire time,
Hmm. Hmm.
uh, in the essence of love and grief.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, where Hogir took his own life because he couldn't save Fiori, she is taking a lot of lives
yeah,
and trying to raise her own love from the dead because she can't stand to be without him.
yeah.
It's
Well,
kind of the different side to the same coin.
yeah, yeah. And I wonder. Well, one can only, I suppose, wonder how Holger and Fiore would feel about that. I suppose uh, this is the whole aspect of Skyrim archaeology that again we are fortunate that we don't have to deal with in real life.
Mm-hmm.
But if you had any sight to be to be to find yourself tragically deadified in, would there be an archaeological site that you can think of? Like where would you visit if you wanted to try and raise the dead and then have someone else come along and attack you?
I mean, this is a pretty good site for it.
Uh huh. Uh huh.
Um, it's private. It's hard to get to.
Yeah. No,
If
fair
someone
enough.
was going to disturb me, they would have to work hard.
Uh huh. Uh huh. So in that sense, you think she chose well then? This wasn't her fault in terms of her choice. It just so happens that you turned up and
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, it's not easy when you know, when the Dragonborn shows up and goes, oh, you guys going to attack me? Okay, I'll just clear this hole then.
Yep, and that's the moral of the lesson, really. If you're going to do archaeology, be the Dragonborn.
Yes, or
Yes.
at least do not attack the Dragonborn on site for
No.
showing up at your excavation site.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah, she should have just given you a tour.
They,
Yeah.
they should have just like, excuse us, you're encroaching on a private excavation.
Uh huh.
This is not open for the public.
Yeah, yeah.
Can we answer your questions here at the gate?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, don't worry.
We're
We'll.
doing some fairly unstable experiments inside.
Yeah, exactly. And yes, of course, we'll be publishing our finds as soon as
You
possible.
will find a peer-reviewed excavation report here and here. Uh, can we take your post address so we can send you a messenger when it's published?
Exactly. Yeah. That then you would never have come in, and she would have been able to
Raise her husband
raise her
and
husband and live happily after. Yeah.
hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure.
So I would say her death in no way is my fault.
No, no, no. Yeah, all they had to do was say, "Sorry, private excavation," or even just dangerous. This is dangerous excavation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
And when I said, "Oh, can I help? I'm really powerful," they just said, "No, no, thank you.
no, thank you, but we do appreciate it, and here's yes, and we'll
Here's 25 gold to just go away."
yeah, and we'll be in touch when the site is published. Yeah, that's all they had to do. That's all they had to do.
Hmm. But did they? No, they
No.
attacked the site.
Well, it has been a good start, I think, to the year, and hopefully we'll continue in this vein. Uh, I guess just finally, obviously we're still asking for suggestions and invitations as to
Mm-hmm.
where to go next, and we'll be making our decisions about where we record next. In the coming days. So if anyone has any ideas, please do comment below. And as always, if people want, they can get hold of the Skyrim Archaeological Survey shoulder patch or patch on the Etsy store. So do check that out if you have time.
They're amazing.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I like them. I like them. Thank you, Liv, for your time. Thank you guys for watching at home. And until next time, do take care. Bye bye.